So, what do you guys want to talk about?
You can call this the New World Order of Wrestling, brother. Put out the caution tape. Put out the orange cones. Acknowledge me.
It's Monday, and you know what that means. I'm Boris Aguilar, and you're listening to the newest wrestling radio show in Canada, A+ Wrestling. A+ Wrestling would not be possible without amazing tag team partners like TO Boat Tours. That's TO Boat Tours, Ontario's premier boat tour experience where adventure meets relaxation on the stunning waters of Canada's most beautiful lakes and rivers in Ontario. That's toboattours.com. This show is part of the A+ Productions and A+ Wrestling Podcast Networks, and now part of the KPHR family. That's Cat Power Hit Radio. We're more than just a weekly radio show. We actually have a ton of shows for you each and every single week over on the A+ Productions Podcast Network, where we talk sports, entertainment, then we bring it all together to chat some sports entertainment, also known as wrestling. You can find us on any podcasting platform as A+ Productions, but if you really just want to listen to the wrestling shows, then you can find us as A+ Wrestling. We can be found online at aplusproductions.com and over on all of the social medias at A+ Productions. We want you to be part of the conversation, and the best place for that is over on the Facebook group. And for that, all you need to do is go to facebook.com and search for A+ Productions. This has been a crazy week for professional wrestling, where we've had 15 plus hours of wrestling over the span of the weekend. We've had some high, we've had some lows. More is more. AEW is back with some momentum. Real life takes over sometimes. Saturday night's main event was the true end of an era for WCW. Women stood tall for WWE, and the road to SummerSlam might have already hit some hurdles. We're going to be discussing all of that and so much more here on A+ Wrestling. And, well, as always, I have to bring some to chat some wrestling, and this week I am bringing none other than my tag team partner, Matt. Matt, how's it going?
Oh, it's going pretty well, man. Had a birthday this weekend. I got a video game and a treadmill, which I feel like are the two ends of the spectrum there. But yeah, life is good. I'm excited to talk a bloated wrestling weekend.
Yes, to say the least. It was crazy nonetheless. So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to be taking a short break very soon. And on the other side of the break, well, we have some very important business to talk about because there's a lot of fallout to talk about. We're going to talk about some of that. Then we are going to be talking about AEW All In and NXT. And later on in the show, we're going to be talking about Saturday night's main event, Evolution. And we're going to be previewing Raw, which starts very, very soon. So without further ado, we're going to be taking a break here on KPHR. And just remember, you are listening to A+ Wrestling.
This is my brutality!
And we are back here on KPHR, and you are listening to A+ Wrestling. I am Boris, he is Matt, and we are going to be talking the weekend that was professional wrestling. As I mentioned at the top of the show, 15 plus hours of wrestling. Matt, how do you feel after all of that?
Yeah, exhausted, tired, and desperately needing a cigarette. And I don't even smoke anymore. Maybe sometimes when I'm drunk. But yeah, anyway, it was exhausting. It was a lot to take in, too much to take in. And had we not been doing this podcast, Boris, there's a 0% chance I would have watched all of it. But I watched all 4 shows, and I'm going to go back and watch Bandito versus Takeshita from Ring of Honor, which apparently might be the best match of the entire weekend. But yeah, man, it was a lot, but it was fun. There was some awesome stuff, some really sad things that we unfortunately have to talk about. By and large, a big success for the industry of professional wrestling.
You hit it right there. Stop the tribalism. If you listen to this show, I hope that you're probably a positive like Matt and I, because Matt and I try to be positive about the wrestling industry. There's so much negativity. There's enough negativity in this world today. Wrestling is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to distract you. Let us have some fun talking about wrestling. And Matt, that's the thing, right? Like you said it. You hit the nail on the head. It was a win for the entire industry. 10 years ago, a weekend like this would never have existed. 5 years ago, a weekend like this would never have existed. And here we have, AEW with their biggest show of the year and WWE and TKO counter programming to the point where we have 15 plus hours of pretty damn good wrestling overall. But Matt, as I mentioned, real life sometimes takes over, and the road to SummerSlam might already have hit some hurdles. Let's talk about that right away. Let us start with the unfortunate news that Adam Cole was stripped of his TNT title earlier on Saturday, and he is going to be away for a while, he said. He's not sure what the future holds, but he wanted the time with the audience just in case. Now, Matt, I don't like speculating, but obviously, there's a lot of rumors and speculation online. So, the most prevalent one is that this is another concussion issue. We know that Adam Cole had a lot of concussion issues stemming from the first Forbidden Door, where he was out, almost 8 to 12 months. He was out for a while. Then he had the ankle injury. Man, this guy has just had bad luck after bad luck. And on the BAM show over on A Plus Wrestling, we talk about this and concussions because I suffer through tons and have suffered through tons of concussions. And let me tell you, they're not fun, man. They make you feel horrible. Like to this day, I haven't had a concussion in years. But to this day, there are weekends, there are days, there are nights, there's mornings where I just want to stay in bed. My head is pounding. Light hurts. It's not fun. It's not fun. But thoughts on the Adam Cole situation?
Yeah, this is someone who, if you followed the indies, he's been in your life to some extent since, 2005, 2008-ish. He was a huge indie star of NXT, had a cup of coffee on the main roster here and there in WWE, and has been kind of just unable to get out of the starting gates to some extent in AEW. But he still has had great success. He main evented the first big All In show with MJF, I should say. But it still feels like he never quite hit his potential in AEW, and it was not his fault. It was just the stops and the starts due to injury, man. And yeah, this is somebody who is, by all accounts, one of the nicest, most genuinely normal and just caring, good human beings in the wrestling business. I'm not a huge Twitch guy or a stream guy, but the little bit I've seen from Adam Cole in that world seems like he's just a sweetheart, man. He just seems like a great kid, and it breaks your heart. It just breaks your heart to see this. We wish him nothing but the best in his recovery. And the severity of things, the fact that he came out and cut a tearful promo, crying openly, weeping in the middle of the ring. His buddies, Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong came out, gave him a big hug. They were openly crying. Daniel Garcia gave him a big hug. Just so many tears and such that felt like it was a big deal. And obviously your mind goes to concussions right away. That's what happened. I mean, it's pretty clear just from the evidence, the circumstantial evidence around you. That's what happened. And we just feel for the guy, man. I almost hope he does retire. We're Miami Dolphins fans, Boris, if this means anything to you out there. Tua Tagovailoa is another guy who we watch, just has had so many concussions. And even as Dolphins fans, he's our quarterback. We both want him to retire so he's not carted off the field one day, man. That's how I feel about Adam Cole. God bless him. Hope he's healthy. Kind of hope we have seen the last of him just so he doesn't suffer more of these things.
That's exactly it, Matt. The reason why I brought up my own experiences was because, it's horrible what that guy must be going through. And I am not anywhere near being an athlete. My physical condition doesn't matter compared to what he has to go through, where he has to be at the top both mentally and physically to put on entertainment for all of us, man. It is absolutely crazy. And I'm not trying, my only question is, if it is concussions, like, take care, and I want nothing but the best for him. And like you said, it might be time for him to hang up the boots. But I hope that this wasn't a case of, questionable, right? Until day of type thing. Like, AEW sometimes has some wishy-washy medical protocols, leading up to certain things. So I hope that, the story going is that Adam Cole wasn't feeling good on Saturday. I hope that was the first sense of concussions that he was feeling, and this wasn't an ongoing thing. That's my one thing, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is just because, like, when it comes to head injuries and concussions, people just need to be a lot more aware and a lot more careful of things.
Yeah, in the last 20 years, we've taken, monumental steps in that direction. Like, it's like night and day. We used to laugh at and celebrate.
Brush it off, Matt. That's what we used to tell people.
You got your bell rung, he got jacked up, etc. All of that, man. And yeah, that culture has pretty much died off. But yeah, you're completely right. Well, just looking at someone like Katsuyori Shibata, who is on this show and is not allowed to wrestle in Japan. In Japan, where they push the envelope physically the most, I think, on the planet Earth, and Shibata is not allowed to wrestle for New Japan anymore, and he opened the All In Texas main pay-per-view show. So just that alone, it'll tell you. But yeah, I'm sure if Adam Cole is healthy and he wants to return to the ring, he can. I hope that he could have a backstage role, or perhaps an announcing role, a managerial role. He's got a lot of charisma. He's an excellent talker. He could do something like that in the wrestling business. But his days taking regular bumps should be numbered for his own sake. And we're not wishing professional ill will on someone. We're wishing him the best. Like, we want to see this guy live a long, healthy life.
Yep, absolutely. And unfortunately, Matt, that was probably the saddest thing of the weekend. But, man, Saturday night rolled around and Seth Rollins seems to have injured his knee yet again. This is a knee that he has injured brutally in the past, took a year off already because of this. Last year was injured during the Jinder Mahal match, struggled, hobbled through WrestleMania 40 to help Cody finish his story, and it appears that after a landing moonsault, he re-injured the same knee. He was backstage at Evolution, and by all accounts, it did not look good. Triple H was asked about it, and he essentially said, it's not looking good. But no official word on what the extent of the injury is. But man, Seth Rollins, Money in the Bank, the briefcase holder right now. What are you thinking?
They're going to have to do a lot of rewriting on the fly. It seems like hopefully Seth is out for a couple months and not close to a year. But again, like, he knew instantly, you could see in his face, he was like, oh no, not this again. And it is different because someone like Seth Rollins, though, obviously he's going to be in pain to some extent, probably for the rest of his life already. Someone like Seth Rollins could be on that Rey Mysterio situation where they change their working style. They kind of adapt a more ground-based game. They still bust out the high-flying every now and then. But I feel like Seth Rollins' career is not in danger, is not in jeopardy the way Adam Cole's is. So that alone makes it a little bit like silver lining to this dark cloud kind of situation. Having said that, he's probably out for an extended period of time. They're going to have to figure out what to do, if anything, with the Money in the Bank briefcase. They're going to have to change a summer's worth of plans, WWE is. And it really sucks for poor Seth, man. It just makes you sick to your stomach, these injuries. Both guys, both longtime favorites of us here on this program. And it's just sad to see. But at least with Seth, even if it's bad, terrible, he's coming back. And Seth will be fine in the long run. He probably will have to change his style a little bit, though.
Agreed. Yeah, the whole thing with Seth Rollins, like, what luck WWE's had over the past couple months with Liv Morgan having that freak injury, shoulder injury. Seth now with the knee, and obviously WWE having to rewrite tons of summer plans because of that. We here at A Plus Wrestling and A Plus Productions wish nothing but the best for both Adam Cole and Seth Rollins. But Matt, the obvious question now, as wrestling fans, I have to ask you, what would you do with the briefcase at this point?
Well, you got to see the extent of the injury. I think using the loose rule that might not even be an established rule anymore, but they used to say about the Money in the Bank, you have 365 days to cash it in. So if Seth could feasibly be back within the window of 365 days since he won it, I would just leave it on him. It's kind of good to have it simmering on the back burner, not in everyone's face every week. Anyway, it kind of makes you forget about it. And then when the cash in does occur, it's a big moment. It gives you an excuse to bring Seth Rollins out whenever he's healthy as a surprise. You don't have to wait till like the Royal Rumble or this big, he can come out on a Monday Night Raw and get a huge pop and stomp somebody and win that title. So if he's healthy enough that he's going to be able to hold on to it for 10 months and make a full recovery and come back, I would just leave it on him. If he's going to be out for a year, maybe then you take it off him. But personally, I just leave it on him, roll the dice, and hope for the best.
That's what I would do. That's what I do. Like you said it best. You got to wait and see how long he's going to be out for, and then make your determination. But I hope he's not gone long enough where they do have to strip him or do another ladder match at SummerSlam or something because of it. I hope that it's a short enough injury where he can just take some time off. But Matt, here's the other thing, right? And this is why, like, we've talked about this with New Japan Pro Wrestling, we've talked about this with AEW, and we've talked about this countless times with WWE. This is why it's so important to continue building up stars, because Seth Rollins is one of the guys that you can, like, he's one of the people that you kind of forget. He's one of those underrated guys, underappreciated guys, because he's always there just doing the job. He's always there. He's showing up each and every single week. And you have people like Cody Rhodes, you have people like Roman Reigns, you have, other people in the men's division who are going to be off filming movies and whatnot. So, having someone like a Seth Rollins, that guy who's always there, that lapdog, for lack of a better word, of WWE and TKO, it's scary because, like, now what? Like, you got to make sure you have people ready.
Yeah, Seth is a little bit of a glue guy. He fills in the blanks of WWE. He's a workhorse, and yeah, it's tough. But they have a deep bench in WWE. Someone like a Drew McIntyre will step up. Someone like a Sami Zayn will step up. It's a big moment for a Karrion Kross, whose wrestling is his worst trait, but he's a guy who Triple H obviously loves and trusts to some extent. Someone like a Bronson Reed or a Braun Breaker need to step up. Like, somebody will fill that role. I'm excited for Drew McIntyre and Sami Zayn to get more play this summer, specifically on Monday Night Raw. But it sucks, man. Seth is the glue of WWE in many ways. Locker room leader and just someone who is wrestling every single week, has a big, important match, it seems. So, yeah, big loss for sure.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to keep talking about this here on A Plus Wrestling each and every single Monday night. You are listening to A Plus Wrestling here on KPHR. Matt, we're going to turn the page and we're going to start talking some of the events that happened throughout the entire weekend. Let us start with probably the biggest show of the weekend, biggest show for AEW. That was AEW All In. Right off the top, thoughts on this show?
Big picture thoughts. This was amazing. One of the best AEW shows ever. Definitely the biggest and best show of this weekend. This is where this podcast should begin, the review portion anyway. I've seen some negativity about Okada and Omega, like they're washed, which is a crazy thing to say. That is incorrect. Obviously, their match wasn't going to be as good as the best matches ever that happened 10 years ago in New Japan, but it was still an excellent match. Overall, a great show. The right guy won the main event. And now with the Young Bucks being removed from storyline power, they're not doing the heel authority figure gimmick anymore. Now with Jon Moxley no longer keeping the world title under lock and key, the Death Riders thing is going to start wrapping up here. It really feels like a new beginning for AEW. It feels like they have a lot of momentum right now. They stole the weekend. They won the weekend. And their television is set up going forward to be pretty entertaining.
Here's the thing. They had to win the weekend. This is the biggest show of the year. Like, they had to have, by far, the best show of this weekend. And luckily, that's exactly what they did. But this is it. It feels like a new beginning. It feels like a a new start for AEW, and that's what we've been talking about, right? Like the world is their oyster shell at this point, and I'm really looking forward to what they can do. And I hope, because sometimes after a big pay-per-view, Matt, they slow down. I just hope that they continue riding this momentum, because there's a lot of great stuff. So something I want to talk about real quick. You know what? We're going to wait for this match. All right, let us start with the 0 hour real quick. Is there anything that you want to bring up from the 0 hour?
Yeah, quickly, Sons of Texas, Rhodes, Von Erich, and Guevara beat Shane Taylor Promotions of Carly Bravo, Lee Moriarty, Shane Taylor, and Sean Dean. To me, like, I wish the Von Erich kids were a little better. The standard of in-ring action in AEW is such that the Von Erich kids stand out as kind of like bad wrestlers, for lack of a better term, and that one kind of hurts my heart. But yeah, it was nice to see them in Texas. We had the Rizzler on the show. How's this for a trios team? Hologram, Kyle O'Reilly, and Tomohiro Ishii, and Big Boom AJ. That, talk about a dream blunt rotation, Boris. They beat the Don Callis family. That was a fun match. That's a fun match. Buddy.
It really was. It really was.
And yeah,
FTR, what a weird one. And then go ahead.
Yes, yeah. FTR defeat the Outrunners. Their match on Collision last week was way better, but it's still a fun little tag match on the 0 hour show.
Yep, exactly. My biggest takeaway from this was Dustin at his age pulling double duty. That was one of my first thought. And secondly was, like you said, the Von Erichs, they're good, but they're not AEW good, dare I say, right? Like, and that kind of sucks. And my bold prediction was they would be winning the tag team championship on this show. That was not the case. That's one strike for Boris on his bold prediction, which is something fun that we do at the start of every year. All right, let us go to AEW All In, and we are starting with the trios titles, the Ops, Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Shibata versus Gabe Kidd, Wheeler Yuta, and Claudio Castagnoli. And Matt, overall, this match, I would have to say, was probably the weakest match of the entire card, and it was still a good match with the Ops, Samoa Joe, Hobbs, and Shibata retaining their titles.
You might be right. You might be right about that. It is not lost on me that we get to see Shibata every month, at least, mostly every week on AEW TV. That's really, really cool. It was awesome to see Gabe Kidd, favorite of A+ contributor, the Mel Ball. We stand Gabe Kidd here on this program. He's one of the greats, one of the best young talents in pro wrestling. It was really cool to see him on this huge card. But yeah, Right Guys won. It was a trios opener. It was fine. Not going to set the world on fire, but at least Shibata, Hobbs, and Samoa Joe got the Duke, Boris. Yeah, Boris, it's not lost on me that Katsuyori Shibata is on this show wrestling every week, at least every month you get to see this guy. That's so cool. Gabe Kidd, one of the great young wrestlers out there, favorite of A+ contributor Mel Ball. She loves Gabe Kidd. How could you not love Gabe Kidd? It was really cool to see him on this show. Yeah, the right people won. Shibata, Hobbs, and Samoa Joe get the W over the Death Riders. Weakest match of the show, maybe, possibly, but still pretty solid. And yeah, it was a trios opener. It was exactly what it needed to be.
Absolutely. That's exactly it, right? It set the tone for the show in a great way. And after the match, the heels attacks the Ops with Castagnoli and Kidd. They put Shibata down with a pile driver, and Castagnoli hits Joe with a neutralizer, and they put his neck through a chair. This has served two purposes. Number one, Samoa Joe is probably going to be out doing some filming, but more importantly, this is telling the story that, you know, the Ops won't be around to help Hangman Adam Page later on that night. So who is going to help him? That's why I absolutely love this post-match angle that they did here.
Exactly. Great call. Yeah, perfect pro wrestling writing. The Ops win the battle, but perhaps the Death Riders win the war.
Yep, perfect stuff. All right, next up was the men's casino gauntlet match for a shot at the AEW World Championship. Mark Briscoe and MJF were the first two. Matt, let us just quickly breeze through this. Thoughts on this match?
Yeah, 35 minutes. It was a little long in the tooth. It was actually the inferior of the two Casino Gauntlet matches. I feel like the women's match was like safely better than this. But yeah, MJF wins the match. MJF, Anthony Bowens, Bandito, Brody King, Josh Alexander, good Canadian boy, Juice Robinson, clean shaven, big return. Konosuke Takeshita, Kota Ibushi, Mark Briscoe, the best wrestler alive, Max Caster, Mystico, Ricochet, Roderick Strong, and the Beast Mortos, aka Mr. Mercedes. Is that a thing? I think that might be a real thing, Boris. Anyway, MJF beats all those jabronis and is the number one contender. He's going to be a thorn in Hangman Page's side going forward. I think the right guy probably won this match as well. And yeah, it was good. It was entertaining for sure, but the women's match was better.
Agreed on all accounts, and I just love the fact that MJF was MJF. He throws Briscoe out of the ring after Briscoe hits a J Driller and puts the pin on Roderick Strong. Just love that swarmy little fox sly of a heel move that was MJF. And as we been talking on this show, and Hutch and I talked about last week, is the fact that MJF just needs a something, and well, they gave him something. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I am the lone defender in many circles.
You really are. You really are.
MJF and the Hurt Syndicate. I love that gimmick. It is working for me. I find it to be very entertaining. I don't know why it gets so much hate, but if I have to be the lone person on MJF Hurt Island, I will build my cabin, Boris. Let's go.
Absolutely love that. All right, the next match was for the vacated TNT Championship match. Kyle Fletcher versus Daniel Garcia with Matt Menard versus Dustin Rhodes versus Sammy Guevara in a 4-way championship match. Matt, the other Rhodes, finally finished his own story.
Which nobody was aware that Dustin Rhodes' story was to win the TNT title, lowest of all belts in AEW, but it was still a very nice moment, don't get me wrong. But yeah, this was a match that the crowd was completely dead for. Understandably, because this is where right before this match, Adam Cole came out and wept in the ring and basically said, hey guys, I might have to retire. I'm not sure when I'll see you again. Sorry. Bye. And yeah, it was just such an emotional promo that whatever followed it was going to kind of, just the fans were going to be recovering. A lot of people just needed to take a walk and go friggin' buy a drink. And yeah, it was a tough spot for these people, but I do think that the Dustin Rhodes victory kind of brought the fans back a little bit, and it was shocking. I think everyone expected Kyle Fletcher to win this match. I think we all expected Kyle Fletcher to beat Adam Cole when that was the thing on the card, and it was kind of a nice curveball from Tony Khan, who rarely throws curveballs and rarely changes his plans to go with Dustin Rhodes here.
Yeah, he usually throws knuckleballs where you don't know where the heck's gonna end up. That's the way AEW does it. But I'm gonna be 100% honest. I swear to you, Matt, I am not lying when I say that when I saw that Dustin was put into this match, I had a feeling that he was gonna win. I don't know why.
Interesting. Them instincts, Boris. Your instinct is sharp. It is honed. That's a good call on your part. You could have gotten a little bit of cash from me if we were betting.
We should have. We freaking should have. But overall, the match was fun. It was good. It was what it needed to be. But as he said, the crowd got into it much later in the match. All right, this takes us into a tag team match. A match that Uncle Meltzer says might be the second best tag team match ever in AEW. We are talking about Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland with Prince Nana versus the Young Bucks, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson. I want to point out that during Swerve's entrance, we saw JoJo Offerman sing Swerve down to the ring. That was beautiful.
Yeah, it was very nice to see JoJo. If you're unaware, JoJo is the widow of Bray Wyatt, longtime announcer in WWE. That was a really cool moment. I want to put this in the top 5 or 10 AEW tag team matches. Of course, we love Uncle Dave on this show, but of course, Dave, it's a Young Bucks versus Will Ospreay match. That's all of his favorite things wrapped in one. For his tastes, of course, he was going to lose his mind over this one. I would say it was the third, maybe fourth best match on this show. and it was still great. It was still a classic. It was still awesome. And this is where the show kicked into high gear for me, Boris. But yeah, again, right people won an excellent wrestling match. Swerve and Ospreay defeat the Young Bucks, Boris. And yeah, the right guys won an excellent match. What more could you want from pro wrestling?
A little more selling. That was my one issue. My two issues, not my one issue. My two issues with this match was, you're doing all these crazy moves. You're getting up. You're powering up. This isn't Street Fighter. Okay, I can live with that. I'm nitpicking. I'm sorry. It happens sometimes. But this match had some of what I absolutely hate the most about pro wrestling. And Matt, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is patiently waiting for the person to do whatever he has to do next.
Yeah, and these Young Bucks matches are so elaborately beaten out and choreographed that at some point there is somebody just sitting there waiting for the next thing to happen. And I appreciate the Young Bucks' work. I think they're amazing wrestlers in the ring, as good in the ring as they are terrible promos outside of the ring. I can't stand a Young Bucks segment, but I have a lot of time for a Young Bucks match. And I really like this, but I have no counter argument to your criticism that there's a lot of dudes just sitting there waiting for the flippy guy to land on them.
Swerve Strickland, Will Ospreay simultaneously hit a house call and a hidden blade for the win. They shake hands and they hug it out to end this segment. The right people won, which leads us to what we talked about at the start of the show, and that is a new start for AEW. And then this leads us straight into the Women's Casino Gauntlet match for a shot at the AEW Women's Championship match. Matt, is this a case where the internet demanded and they got what they asked for?
I think so, to some extent. Athena wins the Casino Gauntlet. Good Texas gal, Athena. She defeats Alex Windsor, who I believe is Mrs. Will Ospreay, Julia Hart, Chris Statlander, Megan Bain, Mina Shirakawa. We want Mina. Queen Aminata, Shiuri from Stardom and possibly going to Ring of Honor, which I think would be a huge mistake. But Shiuri was in this match. Ty Mello, Tekla the Toxic Spider Lady, Thunder Rosa, and Willow Nightingale. One of the greats, Willow. The roster was good. Everyone had a moment to shine. I think the Toxic Spider made a lot of fans. Tekla looked awesome in this match. She really got some play in this one. It's really nice to see Ty Mello back. I think she's been underutilized in her career. She could be a stud in this women's division, a real workhorse. I think she wants the smoke, and she is a way better wrestler than people give her credit for. But yeah, the right gal won this. Athena, it was time for her to appear on the main roster of AEW. It's time for her to shed her ROH shackles, Boris, and get some play on friggin' Dynamite and AEW pay-per-views.
Absolutely. Could not have said it better myself, my friend. You said it, everything that I wanted to say. Athena wins this match. Athena deserved this match. Athena was a single-handedly holding ROH together in its state of dismay and destruction. But Athena was the shining light moment, not only in ROH, but here in the Women's Casino Gauntlet, and she did it. It was great to see. Nice little moment there. Very cool. It's one of those things. We'll see what comes up next. Like, I don't really know where they're gonna go with Athena at this point. So I'm really curious, and I hope they don't ruin things. I hope they don't ruin her. I hope they don't, forget about her. Give her a shot. But Matt, the one thing I do want to highlight is the strength of the women's division right now, where it's pretty damn good right now.
Absolutely. Arguably better than any one of the brands of WWE. WWE as a whole might be better, but even then, I don't think so, because Rhea Ripley's a huge star, but she's not like Toni Storm or arguably Mercedes at the moment. She's right there knocking on the door. Maybe more of a mainstream star, but I don't know. That's a tough debate.
Mainstream star, I think, yes. Maybe. Wrestling? Not so, maybe not.
Well, that's an interesting call. Rhea Ripley rules, don't get me wrong, but I think AEW's women's division is deeper than WWE's, and I think they arguably have more star power at the top as well. This match went closer to 25 minutes. The men's went closer to 35 minutes. I think you felt that 10-minute difference. This was concise, to the point, and this was a far superior match in my opinion.
Speaking of concise and to the point, that's what we need to do. We have so much more wrestling chat here on KPHR, and you're listening to A Plus Wrestling. Matt, we are going to jump to the three-way for the AEW Tag Team Championships. You had Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin versus Kevin Knight and Mike Bailey versus Nick Wayne and Christian Cage. Again, good match, but this match had a lot of what I don't like, and that's people just waiting for the next spot.
Yeah, lots of that in this match, but it was okay. The big return of Adam Copeland came here. He saved Christian Cage, grabbed the microphone and said, "Go find yourself," to his old friend, his old kayfabe brother, Christian Cage. That's the big takeaway. Hurt Syndicate retained their tag team titles. We knew that was coming. Very cool to see the speedball in this huge spot. Very cool to see young Nick Wayne in this huge spot. And Christian's going babyface with Edge. It's going to be Adam Copeland and Christian Cage probably taking the tag team titles away from the Hurt Syndicate down the road.
All Out, 2 months, 6 days from right now, here in Toronto, dramatic pause, Ontario, Canada. That's probably going to happen. That's what I think is going to happen. All right, let us jump to the AEW Women's Championship match. Timeless Toni Storm versus Mercedes Moné. This was one of those matches where I had no idea who could win. Either person would be a good choice, but I have to say the right person won, not only for AEW, but for optics and optic reasons.
Toni Storm, hungry young talent, literally and figuratively.
Jesus Christ, Matt. We are a PG show here on KPHR.
We're just gonna leave it at that. I think you know what I'm talking about. If you have not, just load up Instagram. I'm sure you'll see the thing I'm referring to.
We learned that Toni Storm likes a cat or two. Move on.
That's worse than what I said. Anyway, yes, let's move on forever. Yes, Toni Storm versus Mercedes. This was the second best match on the show. This was an incredible match. It delivered. They set out to have the best women's match ever. That's what they said during the build-up. I don't know if it quite got there, but it was one of the best of Mercedes and Toni's career. This was the main event that they needed to have here. The first of 3 main events, apparently. And this is a hot take maybe, but I think this match was better than Okada versus Omega. If Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada are wrestling on your show and you can plausibly say we had a better match than those guys, you did well. You did a good job. Toni Storm defeats Mercedes, retains her world title. She is timeless and all is well in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. Man, that's a great question. Is this match better than the following match of Okada and Kenny Omega? Matt, I'm going to have to agree with you. And again, right, let's just jump right into this because the next match was for the AEW International Championship and the AEW Continental Championship to crown the first ever unified champion. That's Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada. Let's talk about this one. Last week, Hutch and we talked about this. You and I talked about this probably offline or on one of the shows that we do. That's the fact that these guys are 10 years older. These guys are a lot more injured. Kenny Omega is he's getting back from a life-threatening injury, right? And they still tore the house down. But I'm going to have to agree with you that the women's match was better than this. And that's not saying a bad thing about this unified championship match. Okada needed this match. Omega needed this match. But overall, I think the right person won because, Matt, one of the biggest things that we hear from the internet wrestling community, even from the A+ Productions community, is that Okada is nothing here in North America.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. He's not nothing. He's not being...
not nothing, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, I know. But yeah, I'm not saying that you're saying that, but the people who are saying that are incorrect, and that's ridiculous. He has not been pushed, obviously, to the level that he was in New Japan, but he's still an excellent wrestler doing excellent work. This, to me, Boris, felt like the match that these two guys would have had in WWE It was still great, still arguably a classic in the history of professional wrestling. But this felt like a WrestleMania match, not an all-in match, just in terms of the finisher spam, which is something you don't really see. Kenny Omega has kicked out of the Rainmaker before, but Okada's Rainmaker is very well protected, even in AEW. And they were spamming finishers in this match to some extent. And yeah, this felt like it had more of a WWE layout to me. And that was like a stark contrast to the absolutely wild matches they had in New Japan, which were kind of unique to themselves. I don't know. It was good, but to me it was like, oh, the passage of time is coming. You know what I mean? Time comes for all of us. Even these two amazing athletes have slowed down just a bit, and they worked a WWE style match, in my opinion, here, and it was interesting to see.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting insight on that. I didn't really think of it that way, but now thinking back at the match itself, I think you're right, man. I think that's what it was. And again, great match, fantastic match, number 3 of the night, maybe number 3, 4 of the night, but certainly, I think the women's match was better. But yeah, Okada wins. He's the unified champ. Overall, thinking about this more, I think the right person won just because of the flack that Okada has been getting since he joined AEW last year.
Yeah, sometimes we talk about who needed the win more for their career, for storytelling. Okada needed this win much more than Kenny did. So yeah, right person won yet again, a theme on this show.
All right, which is great to see here in AEW, because not to say that they don't typically do it, but sometimes wrestling just loves throwing curveballs for the sake of throwing curveballs, and so sometimes it's just nice to see that the story progression continues the way that it's supposed to, yada, yada, yada. All right, let us move on to the AEW World Championship match. Jon Moxley, your champion, versus Hangman Adam Page in a Texas death match. Matt, here's the thing. Hangman Adam Page has taken so much heat, so much flack, so much BS, not only from the AEW fans and the AEW loyalists, but from the tribalists on the WWE side and the tribalists on the CM Punk side. This is someone who was stricken down and forgotten about, because a lot of people blamed Hangman Adam Page for CM Punk leaving when he did that unscripted promo all those years ago, and Hangman Adam Page since then has been climbing up slowly and slowly and slowly. Not only has he gotten better as a wrestler, but his promos right now are top notch. Matt, his character is also top notch and one of the best in all of professional wrestling right now. And here we are for him to finish his story. Yes, I'm stealing that for this, because this match honestly did feel like WrestleMania 40's main event with Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, and this was Hangman Adam's Page match to lose. And by God, did he have help from everyone under the sun, which is amazing to see. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Hangman Adam Page proved that he is AEW. He proved that whatever happened with CM Punk was back then. He has come back like a phoenix rising from the ashes, and it was great to see his emotion, his antics, his everything from the moment that he won that belt back at the end of this night. Matt, this was beautiful storytelling. This is why we love professional wrestling. Not only was it a win for professional wrestling and storytelling, but this was also a personal win for Hangman Adam Page and all the ish he's been taking from the entire internet wrestling community over the past 2 years.
Well said, big homie. Absolutely correct on that read. This was Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns inside a razor blade factory. This was just the most violent, brutal version of that storytelling. Yeah, this was like if the WrestleMania main event happened in Big Japan and Jun Kasai was in it or something. Just absolute lunacy. But yeah, we saw beds of nails and broken glass and blood and sweat and tears, and Jon Moxley being hung by his neck to finish this thing off. And Moxley sold it like he was being hung by the Hangman, like it was a scene out of Tombstone or something. The movie, not the wrestling move. Bryan Danielson returned, laid down a knee bomb. Darby Allin repelled from this ceiling of the Arlington Arena where the Texas Rangers play. That was a crazy visual. Yeah, so many run-ins, so many different bells and whistles in this match, but it needed to be exactly what it was. Jon Moxley gets a lot of criticism, but this is why Jon Moxley is the champion. Like, he is a great big match wrestler. Very rarely has a bad match in a big spot. You can maybe point to that one with Adam Copeland that a lot of people didn't like, and that's, I think, the only time Moxley maybe didn't deliver in a main event slot. And yeah, this had to go this way. This match had to go this way. I don't think there was ever a breath of a chance of Moxley winning this match. But if he would have, it would have been one of the big mistakes in wrestling history, up there with like Starrcade 1997, etc. But now that Adam Page has won, we really feel like we've gotten a fresh start. Just blue skies ahead for AEW wrestling. Just absolutely excellent stuff. I have yet to see Bandito versus Takeshita from Ring of Honor, but I would be flabbergasted, Boris, if anything this weekend was better than this.
Perfectly said, my friend. And there we go. That was AEW All In. Here we are on KPHR. You're listening to A Plus Wrestling, and our advertisers love you listeners so much that we are going to go through commercial free until the top of the hour here on KPHR, because we have so much wrestling to talk about. Matt, AEW All In was fantastic. I needed a whole pack of smokes after that one because it was such a good show, but it was such a long show. But as that night was happening, WWE counter-programmed, and they, you know what, I gotta say, look, all things considered, WWE did a fantastic job as well. This weekend, like I said, AEW needed to be the best show by far, and they were. This was their biggest show of the year, but WWE ran some pretty damn good wrestling counter to this, and let us talk about NXT Great American Bash. This show, 2 hours in length, perfect amount of wrestling, and we are seeing the future of WWE here.
Yeah, absolutely. Some young talents getting huge wins. Ethan Page and Ricky Saints had an excellent match. I thought had a chance to steal the weekend for sure. Let's get into it. Let's start cooking this pig or something.
Javon Evans versus Jasper Troy started things off. Jasper Troy gets a surprise win here. I really do like this. Yeah,
Javon Evans, a veteran move, which is funny because he's like 21 years old, but he is the seasoned vet in this match versus Jasper Troy, and he uses a roll up, Boris, some tricks of the trade to defeat Javon Evans. They were kind of telling this story in this match where if they wrestled 10 times, Jasper Troy might win 8 or 9 of them.
All right, this leads us into the next match of the night. Izzy Dane versus Sol Ruca for the Women's North American Championship. Matt, Sol Ruca, we've been talking about her since day zero here on A Plus Wrestling and A Plus Productions and other places. She is going to be a superstar, and that's something that we saw over the span of this entire weekend. Not only did she steal the show on SmackDown, which was a very great SmackDown, God bless the 2-hour SmackDowns, but she had a great match here on NXT Great American Bash, and, well, she did it again at Evolution. But Sol Ruca still your NXT Women's North American Champion. Future star right there. All right, let us go to the AEW Bowl. Ricky Saints versus Ethan Page. Falls Count Anywhere match for the North American Championship. Excellent match. Pretty good Falls Count Anywhere match for WWE standards. Ethan Page is still your champion. But Matt, they're burying Ricky Saints.
No, that's ridiculous. I liked the way that the finish of this match happened. Ricky Saints was getting the advantage on Ethan Page, about to kind of like scale that hill and finally topple him here. And they literally ran into Jasper Troy, who was backstage and recovering from his own match. And Jasper Troy, being a big, scary, mean man who was angry, took his anger out on Ricky Saints. That was an interesting way to do it in a hardcore match. Have someone who's not involved kind of get brushed up against, to lose his mind, take out Ricky Saints, and that sets up Ricky versus Jasper going forward. I really like that. There's a certain amount of poetry to these two guys who AEW did misuse, did unfairly kind of slot at a bottom role. They both left. Now they're in NXT, and they had a really, really great match as the AEW pay-per-view was going on. I think this was easily the best match on this NXT show. I would have liked to have seen Ricky win, but I did quite enjoy and appreciate the way that they laid out the finish, so Ethan Page got it. And a crazy Razor's Edge, Eagle Edge, off the stage through some tables is the actual finish of this match, which was spectacular. One of the better hardcore matches you're going to see.
Yoshiki Inamura versus Obafemi for the NXT Championship. Meat versus meat on meat. Meat on meat. This is a triple stacker right here. Obafemi still your NXT champion.
Yes, it's a good morning burger. Let's go. Yeah, I love Yoshiki Inamura. He's highly underrated. Obafemi, as we've been saying for 2 years, best kept secret in wrestling. He just keeps getting better, improving in front of our eyes. Yeah, a hard-hitting, meat-slapping match, Boris. Meats were slapped, I'm telling you.
To say the least. And then the main event was the Jordan Grace and Blake Monroe versus Fatal Influence. We talked about this last week where this match would transcend into Evolution. That's exactly what we got. We'll talk about that in a moment. Jordan Grace and Blake Monroe are victorious.
Yeah, Blake Monroe pins NXT Women's Champion JC Jane with a DDT type thing. Put a pin in that. Remember that as we get to Evolution. Blake pinned the women's champion.
Absolutely. All right, that is that for NXT. Let us go to later on that night, as Saturday night's main event was from Atlanta. We start things off, Randy Orton with Jelly Roll. That's something I never thought I would say. Versus Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul. This match was essentially to set up the inevitable tag team match happening at SummerSlam.
Yeah, sad but true. That's definitely where we're going. Jelly Roll, WWE superstar. I feel like if Orton and Drew McIntyre had 1,000 matches, this would have been the worst one. Like, this was the worst Orton versus McIntyre match you'll see. Honestly, this whole Saturday night's main event card was a little cursed. This was not a good show overall, but some of that was like weird injury and just weird pacing. They had a lot to cram into this thing. Yeah, Drew McIntyre. Orton defeats Drew McIntyre, and then Drew McIntyre hits Jelly Roll with the big ol' Claymore kick. I wish this didn't exist.
Solo Sikoa versus Jimmy Uso for the U.S. Championship. Solo Sikoa retains. This was just a match. This was nothing special. After the match, Sikoa and the MFTs attacked Uso. That was pretty much that, man. Like, you know, it's just continuation of that.
Yeah, exactly. Solo Sikoa, it's funny that this happened on Saturday night's main event because Solo Sikoa has some honky-tonk man vibes to him. He's going to win with interference. It's not going to be the best match. He is showing more charisma in that ring, doing some weird dances and shouting at his opponents. I appreciate that Solo Sikoa is breaking out of his shell and showing a little more like fire in the ring. But yeah, he's closer to honky-tonk man than Bryan Danielson in between the ropes.
Absolutely. All right, we already talked about this match. LA Knight versus Seth Rollins. LA Knight wins and Seth Rollins is injured. LA Knight, you got a lot to do because I think LA Knight is going to be one of those people carrying WWE moving forward right now.
It seems like he's another guy who's going to step up, going to get a lot of time, a big spot. He has big shoes to fill. But yeah, this is the rare match where a babyface gets a huge win and they're mad about it because he was not the planned finish. Seth Rollins, as you said, attempts a Jericho lion salt, lands on his feet, blows out his knee, it looks like. He sits in the corner for a second. LA Knight's pissed. Seth Rollins is visibly pissed. And the ref goes over, talks to both of them. Seth hobbles out of the corner. LA Knight immediately hits his finish, BFT, and wins the match right away and walks to the back angry. And Seth walks to the back just looking like a ghost, man, honestly. Just like pale in the face, just sad.
Absolutely. We've got 5 minutes to cover the rest of this show, Matt, but it is time to cover the final match of Goldberg. That was Goldberg versus Gunther. We got all the hits of Goldberg. Gunther ends up winning. The right person won, thank God. And like I mentioned at the very top of the show, it's crazy to think that the bygones of WCWs, this is the end of an era. This is one of the last people still, quote unquote, active as a wrestler who had their retirement match in 2025.
Yeah, Sting retired a couple of years ago or last year. Goldberg retired this year. Ric Flair had what, God willing, was his last match, despite Conrad Thompson's best efforts to kill this man in the middle of the ring. Flair survived that. So, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully this is the last match for Goldberg. It really seemed like he was happy with it, and he went out. This was the best match on the Sunday or Saturday night's main event show. Gunther versus Goldberg. Gunther, a miracle worker here. Like this had no right being this good, and it was chopped up with some commercial breaks. They had a lot of hurdles to clear here, but I think they cleared it. Overall, a good job. This is probably like a top 20, top 10 Goldberg match maybe ever. Honestly,
top 5 in my opinion. It was good. I liked it. Saw the hits. Did what it needed to do. Right person won. That was Sunday night's main event. Let us jump to WWE Evolution. Matt, this is what we're going to do. We're going to quickly go through the results, but I really want to talk about the main event. And then later on this week, you and I are going to be jumping on a pod, chatting some more WWE Evolution, just WWE in general. We'll do that later on this week. So real quick, Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria versus Bayley in a triple threat for the Women's U.S. Championship. Becky Lynch wins. That was an overall okay match. JC Jane versus Jordan Grace. Well, we called it. Blake Monroe turns heel, and she turns on Jordan Grace to help JC Jane retain. We had Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez retain their belts in a 4-way match with Charlotte Flair, getting a huge, awesome reception, which we will talk about in that special show. What a fun time that was. We had Tiffany Stratton versus Trish Stratus in a very fun, well, nostalgic match, for lack of a better word, where Tiffany Stratton retains her belt. We had Jade Cargill versus Naomi with Bianca Belair as a special guest referee, where Jade Cargill gets the W. Naomi looked injured, and we thought that was that for Naomi. Then we had the 20-woman battle royal where Stephanie Vaquer wins and will get a title shot at Clash in Paris. And this leads us to Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship match. Matt, in my opinion, best WWE match of this weekend, including the ending.
Yes, I'm going to co-sign that. I guess the only thing that was even really close was Saints versus Ethan Page, but I would say this was better for sure.
Yep. Naomi cashes in. These two have a barn burner. These two are like beating the living hell out of each other. Naomi cashes in and quickly wins the Women's World Heavyweight Championship. I'm shocked because we were basically betting the barn on the fact that Naomi would cash in on Jade Cargill. I love it when they throw a curveball. This curveball works for me. Matt, did this curveball work for you?
Yeah, chiefly because so many fans, we weren't alone in that prediction, thought that one Jade, one Queen of the Ring, she was going to win the title, and Naomi was going to cash in and steal it from her. I think Jade gets a little overhated. Hutch on our program a couple weeks ago said that the experiment is over. It won't work with Jade Cargill. I think that's extreme, but Jade Cargill is the worst wrestler on a major television show right now. She is one of the few wrestlers. The standard of wrestling in the ring has risen to such a level that pretty much everyone is good. And Jade's the one wrestler you can be like, I don't know if she's good at this yet. And that's going to take a little time. It doesn't always click for everyone, but like, I'm not giving up on Jade Cargill yet. Nikki Bella was on this show. Nikki Bella was hopeless when she started, and she became a really good wrestler. Like Maxine Dupree is someone who had nothing when she started, and she became a really good wrestler. Sol Ruka, arguably, was just doing flips for a couple months, and she became an awesome wrestler. It's not over for Jade Cargill. It's not over for Jade Cargill, but Jade's a bad wrestler right now. That's a fact. Sorry. And I'm glad that they went this way with it and didn't have Naomi steal it from Jade, because Jade shouldn't be world champion even for 5 minutes right now. This was the right decision, and it was a big shock, and it sets up a lot of intriguing new matchups, and they can kind of put Jade versus Naomi to bed for a little bit. So I thought this was an excellent call, and it did surprise us.
All right, that is that. You're listening to A Plus Wrestling here on KPHR, and it is time to go. Thank you so much for listening. I know we had to rush that, but again, 15 plus hours of wrestling, and we're trying to talk about it all in 1 hour. And the best way to listen to more coverage on the weekend that was is by going over to your favorite podcasting app and subscribing to A Plus Productions, or you can just subscribe to the wrestling shows, and that is by searching for A Plus Wrestling. Be part of the conversation, facebook.com, and search for A Plus Productions. We were brought to you by T.O. Botours. That's tobotours.com. He is Matt. I am Boris, and on behalf of the entire A Plus crew, thank you so much for listening, but more importantly, stay tranquilo.